This is strength.
The
river gives us life because its pure waters nourish us.
As Native people and for myself, I've been brought up surviving off the land, so everything that we done was dependent on the land.
The Mother Earth, the water and the forest are tremendously important for us as indigenous people. That's why we are careful to protect our environment. We cannot destroy the land, nor can we sell it or give it away.
Mother Earth is the source of life. Aboriginal peoples around the world know this. For thousands of years, they have cherished the land, taking from it only what they need to survive, believing that no one can own land. It is a gift from the Creator to be shared. But those values are increasingly in conflict with governments and corporations that value land only as a commodity, a source of minerals, oil, hydroelectric power, to be expropriated and exploited with little or no benefit to the indigenous inhabitants. For the children of Marinduque in the Philippines, the Boac River is a place to cool off on a hot day, but for their parents, it is the source of survival.
Before, what fish did you catch from the river?
Shrimp, crab, and a variety of fish.
That's a lot.
There used to be a lot. We didn't have to buy fish from the main town.
And now,
Ever since the disaster, we've had a hard time.
In March 1996, 4 million tons of tailings from the Marcopper Mining Corporation spilled into the Boac River. Eliza Hernandez works as a laundrywoman by the riverside. After the Marcopper tragedy, she contracted a skin disorder which she says came from the river water.
Something toxic entered my body, and they call it plastic anemia.
From 1975 to 1992, Marcopper dumped its mining wastes here in Kalankan Bay through a long pipeline that came from the mountain, about 200 million metric tons of it. They only stopped when the government made it illegal after the spill. At the time, a United Nations investigation found that the toxins had killed all life in the Boac River. High lead levels are also making the children sick.
Napatunayan na si Joseph ay mayroong mataas na lead.
it was proven that Joseph has high lead levels in his body.
Na pagka mataas ang lead sa katawan ng isang tao, lalo na sa mga bata, karaniwan meron niyang pabalik-balik na pagsakit sa
We all know that those with high lead levels, especially children, experience recurring pain in the stomach, which is caused by the toxicity of lead.
Now Marcopper wants to dump tailings into the sea again.
Because we are in an area which has high rainfall, storms often occur. Earthquakes also happen. So in the long run, it will be carried by water as runoff into the river. Then from the river, it flows into the sea. So since it ends up in the sea anyway, we might as well dump them properly into the sea.
For almost 30 years, Marcopper was co-owned by the Canadian company Placer Dome Incorporated. In 1982, Placer Dome received a $1.7 million loan from the Canadian government's Export Development Corporation for this mine project. Placer Dome claims it sold its interest in Marcopper in 1997, but Philippine court documents show that it is still involved through a subsidiary.
Placer Dome fears that camera And this coverage,
Lalo na pagka nakikita sa iba-ibang parte ng mundo. Sapagkat
especially if it will be shown in other parts of the world, because this is a multinational mining company.
Naging biktima kami ng kanilang kapabayaan. Gayon pa ang pinakamasakit.
What hurts most is they will not accept the responsibility.
Arrogance.
As the people of Marinduque continue their struggle, we travel next to visit the newer people of southern Sudan. They have lived on this land for thousands of years. But the discovery of oil here has resulted in a campaign by the government to forcibly, and often brutally, displace them from their ancestral lands, a practice some human rights groups have likened to genocide.
Right now we are in Pariang County, north of Bentiu, the oil fields of Sudan. This area was burnt a few weeks ago by government forces who have been trying to get the public out of this area so that they can control the land and exploit the oil in this region.
20 people killed, 38 children and women abducted.
How many homes destroyed?
Over 6,000 houses.
How many?
Over 6,000 in the whole area.
6,000 homestays, including 16 churches, chapels.
They killed one of my family, my sister. We need food, clothes, just basic things to survive.
The main incentive in this area for the government, as far as the government is concerned, is really they want the land so that they can do their oil exploration freely without any encumbrance from the local people who would like to resist the exploitation of their resources.
While the civil war continues, the president of Sudan has stated that oil revenues will be used to build arms factories and as collateral against loans to procure heavy weapons systems, bombers and helicopter gunships to fight the local resistance movement and win the civil war in Sudan. But the Sudanese government didn't have the means on its own to extract the oil or to generate oil revenues. It needed the help of multinational companies like Canada's Talisman Energy of Calgary. Foreign investment in Sudan in the midst of civil war is highly controversial. But in a video link-up, Talisman Chief Executive Officer Jim Buckey defends his company's presence as good for peace and development.
The Sudan is an extremely complex place, long-term bitter feuding, and obviously we hope in the longer run that the wealth generated by the oil fields will be used for the benefit of all the people in Sudan, especially those in the south.
But companies like Talisman have been accused of complicity in human rights violations and fueling the civil war that has killed more than 2 million people and displaced 4.5 million others. Tens of thousands have been displaced by oil development and thousands killed in the process of oil-related forced removals. In February 2000, a Canadian government fact-finding mission found that the Sudanese army uses Talisman property as a base to launch attacks on the civilian population. The mission also found that the Sudanese army provides protection for Talisman's operations, a charge Buckey does not deny.
We rely on the government security forces from the government of Sudan. To date, we've had no serious incidents in the area, and we're confident that the government has the wherewithal to defend provide security, I should say, around the operations and pipeline.
Oil analyst Dennis Bennett has studied Sudan's oil initiative closely. He sees the situation a little differently.
We found out after the war that there were the gas chambers, there were the ovens in Nazi Germany, and I'm afraid that we're going to find out too late that American mutual fund money and British and Canadian investor money is being used to finance genocide in Sudan.
As the fighting rages on, thousands flee into refugee camps. Others seek safety in the mosquito-infested swamplands, choosing the threat of malaria over almost certain death by bullets and bombs if they were to stay on their oil-rich land. Like the Newer people, back in the home province of Talisman Energy, the Lubicon Cree of northern Alberta are also engaged in a struggle to have their land rights respected.
As Native people, and for myself, I've been brought up surviving off the land, so everything that we done was dependent on the land. For example, hunting and trapping. These are things that we were brought up to respect. We had to respect the land because our life was more or less dependent on it. We had to use the many different herbs and the many different trees. Everything that's on our area, we learned to survive off. So you cannot destroy one thing and expect to have something else there or any of the other things. And you destroy one, which in turn affects the whole thing. We were brought up in a way to respect all things and all living things, and because the more, if you preserve, then you have something for tomorrow or for the future. And that's the kind of process that we were brought up in. And today, well, it's a whole different story because, what we preserved for many hundreds of years, the oil companies and the governments have destroyed within 10, 15 years. And, I've seen a lot of our elders go out into the different areas of our traditional area and with tears in their eyes, having lived and survived for many years, and all of a sudden, it's gone. You're actually looking at it and it's just disappearing.
I've seen poverty firsthand. When I was driving a medical van here, I used to take people in to Peace River for their medical appointments. Some people didn't go because they went to food banks to get food, which there was no need for it because they live in a very rich area of this country. There should be no welfare in this community.
This whole territory that we've occupied for many, many years is still ours. We've never been a party to any treaty that is made, so that whole question is there. But in finding a lot of natural resources within our traditional territory, it's led to a lot of difficulties for our people. While everybody else is benefiting from our resources, we're subject to welfare.
I have seen sickness, which should be unacceptable in any community in Canada. We had an outbreak of TB, where a lot of our people were sent to Edmonton. And now I'm going to be seeing the total destruction of the forests in this area. And when that is destroyed, that will destroy our people.
I don't know how to best explain it, but it certainly has, changed drastically from where we started. For example, the people, it was less than 10% of our people when we started out on welfare. Today it's up to 90%, and on the average it's around there. Where it's led to many, many social problems within the community, to many deaths. And it seems like the more deaths in the community, the happier the governments get, which is sad. But I guess that's the intent of and the will of the government, especially the federal government, to rather do away with the Lubicon people, so they don't have to deal with them in the long run.
And everything that grows on this earth is put there for a reason. The very air we breathe comes from plant life. What are we going to do? Suffocate? If we don't stop this insanity about logging? Just money talking, greed. The last I heard that the oil companies had taken something like over $7 billion of oil out of Lubicon land. We are asking for not even 1% of what's been taken off our land. Now, if that isn't greed, I don't know what it is.
A new round of land rights negotiations with the federal government began in July 1998, almost exactly 60 years after Ottawa first promised the Lubicons a land base. To date, no agreement has been reached, but resource exploitation continues on the Lubicons' traditional territory. The tributaries of the upper Sinu River, here in the last remaining rainforest of the Caribbean coast of Colombia, are the ancestral home of the Embera-Catillo indigenous nation.
Life here at the edge of the river has been very good to us. We've been very happy. The plants that grow here were handed down to us by our ancestors.
This land is also home to the richest diversity of plants and animals found anywhere in the world. Embera culture and spirituality is deeply rooted in the river and all its teeming life. Their survival depends on it.
This river used to be full of different species of fish. We used to catch 50 to 100 fish at a time, and that would feed our family for days. The land is also fertile. When we plant our crops, they bear fruit, and they harvest feeds my people.
These days, Kimi Pernia has no time for planting or harvesting. His vision and leadership are needed to confront a dangerous threat to his people. 4 years ago, the Ura 1 hydroelectric megaproject was built downstream by a consortium of Colombian and international investors, including Canada's Export Development Corporation. Ura received loans of more than $25 million from the Canadian Crown Corporation in support of work on the project by a Canadian company. This dam and the reservoir, created to feed the turbines, are flooding Embera lands. Yet Ura and the Export Development Corporation never consulted the Embera-Catillo before construction began, in flagrant violation of the Colombian Constitution and international treaties.
I felt like crying when I saw our river, which is no longer running, the water stagnant. I said to myself, our father is dead. Now we're going to die of hunger and sadness.
This entire area across the river is a field of plantain for the collective use of the community. Soon it will be underwater. This is very serious because this crop is an important source of food. When this land is flooded, there will be nothing left for our people to eat.
Water is rising under our house. It's no longer safe to live here, so we had to take the house down so we can use the timber to build a new one higher up.
We are being forced to move to higher ground. Many plants that grow by the river's edge don't grow higher up, and we need those plants. This will be a huge loss for us.
URA told us the dam would bring electricity and development for all, but we haven't seen any development here. The only thing the dam has brought is destruction. Destruction of the environment, destruction of our way of life, and death for our people. What kind of development is that?
To build the dam, they erected a huge wall that cuts the Sinu River in half. Now the fish can get past the wall to lay their eggs upriver. So there is no fish left in the tributaries above the dam.
You go to fish and there is nothing to catch. Or if you're lucky, maybe you'll catch something, but it's only this tiny. And that's not enough to feed everybody. The kids are always crying because they're hungry. Sometimes we old people don't eat in order to give what we have to the children.
There is no fish left now, and we are suffering because we have no protein anymore. Just plantains and a few chickens for the eggs.
The loss of fish and protein in people's diets has been fatal. The result is widespread malnutrition, making people vulnerable to diseases, which used to be easy to control, but not anymore.
People have died because of the effects of malnutrition. They become anemic, and we are seeing other similar health problems over and over again. In the last 8 months alone, 4 infants died under the age of 1 year.
It's not only the lack of fish that is causing serious health problems for the Embera Catillo. The dam has turned fast-running rivers into vast areas of stagnant water, and that has brought mosquitoes, mosquito bites, dengue, and malaria.
There are so many mosquitoes now, which we didn't have before. We are being eaten alive.
Tengo 10 días que estoy enferma.
I've been very sick for more than 10 days with a fever, headaches, stomachache, pain in my bones. I feel really terrible. Nobody here ever got malaria before, but we're getting it now, a lot, because of the dam.
Malaria can be fatal, but so too is speaking out against the URA Dam. Embera health worker Lucindo Domico was vocal in his criticism. He was shot to death in front of his home.
They killed my son because he defended Embera territory and the Embera people. He spoke up because he believed URA should not make it impossible for us to stay on the land where we were born.
4 of our leaders have been killed so far. We are convinced the order came from those who wanted to silence their opposition to the dam. Other Embera leaders, including myself, we too have received death threats.
But the Embera Catillo refused to be silenced. When their land began to be flooded, they came here to the capital and camped outside the Environment Ministry for 4 months, demanding to be heard. As these Embera families maintained their vigil, concerned Canadians also called for justice. Finally, a settlement was reached that includes damage compensation, new land, and the suspension of plans for URA 2, a second and bigger hydroelectric dam, which would flood even more Embera land.
We appear to have won an agreement, but it's only a piece of paper at the moment. In reality, we haven't received anything yet, so our struggle continues.
The Embera Catillo hope that struggle will serve to ensure that the policies responsible for the destruction of their land and livelihood are not repeated.
It's not just about us, Embera, but for our brothers and sisters in so many other countries. We say investment should not be allowed to damage indigenous lands and cultures. This is our message because we are really suffering here.
That message is echoed by indigenous people around the world.
I don't know if the general public or the Canadian people are aware. It is not only the Lubukon people that are going to lose. It's the Canadian people. We're all going to be losers on this. These politicians that are selling out this country should be accountable for it. Not only to the Lubukon people, but to the rest of the Canadian people. That's treason when you sell out your country.
Indigenous peoples need to be respected, because how can it be that foreign companies invest here and then afterwards we have worse problems than before? Maybe it doesn't affect you, but it's very serious for us. It's our people who are dying.